Now, dim the lights. Let the sounds of your world fade away, replaced by the whisper of your own breathing. Settle into your pillows and let your body grow heavy, comfortable, and still. The coin Madame Sylvie pressed into your palm is still warm, a grim down payment on a debt you did not earn. But you're not here for the coin. You're here for what your father hid before he vanished, a small, silver-bound book that is your only key to freedom. You have until sunrise to find it, because when the first light touches the cobblestones outside, you will no longer belong to yourself. Imagine this now. Let your mind drift, and let us begin your search. The air in the common room of the gilded cage is a heavy tapestry woven from 100 different threads. Picture yourself standing near the great hearth, the one place in this cavernous room that holds any true warmth. Let the heat from the flames wash over the front of your body, a stark contrast to the persistent damp chill that clings to your back. The smell you notice first is overwhelming. It's the smell of wet wool from cloaks still steaming from the rain outside, the sour tang of spilled ale seeping into the wooden floorboards, the fatty aroma of roasting meat from the kitchens, and underneath it all, a sweet, cloying perfume that seems to hang in the air like a ghost, a scent of desperation masked with lavender and rosewater. You draw a slow breath, and the smoke from the fire stings your eyes just a little. From across the room, Madame Sylvie watches you. She sits at a small elevated table, a queen on a makeshift throne, surveying her kingdom. She is not a large woman, not the fortress you might have imagined. Instead, she is all sharp angles and quiet intensity. Her dark hair pulled back so tightly it seems to pull at the corners of her eyes, making them appear watchful, assessing. Those eyes miss nothing. They dart from a serving girl who was too slow with a pitcher to a pair of merchants whose laughter was a fraction too loud, and then, inevitably, they land on you. She does not smile. She simply acknowledges your presence with a slight, almost imperceptible nod, a gesture that says, "I see you, I own you, do not forget it." The debt she had explained earlier in her small, unnervingly tidy office was a matter of record. Her voice was like the clinking of coins, devoid of emotion, a simple statement of fact. Your father, a man who could charm the birds from the trees but could never resist the allure of the dice, had wagered and lost more than his life was worth. He had offered you as collateral, and then he had disappeared, leaving you to settle his final, ruinous account. He was a poet with his promises, Sylvie had said, her fingers steepled before her. Let us hope you are more practical. But this is not simply a story of a debt to be paid. This is a search, a desperate hunt against the turning of the hourglass. Before he fled, your father left a message, not for you, but hidden for you. It was tucked inside the spine of the only book you owned, a tattered collection of fables. A single sentence, his familiar, elegant script, crammed onto a sliver of parchment. Where the weeping tree offers its shade, you will find my legacy. You know what he meant by legacy. The small, leather-bound book with the silver clasp, the one he was always writing in. He called it his Book of Truths. You had thought it was poetry. Now you understand, it was his only real treasure, and he has made it your only hope. It is hidden somewhere in this house, this gilded cage of noise and shadows, and you must find it before dawn. A voice, sharp and impatient, cuts through your spiraling thoughts. You, new girl, stop warming your hands and start using them. The fire needs wood. The speaker is Beatrice, the head housekeeper, a woman whose face seems permanently puckered from smelling something unpleasant. She points a bony finger toward a large wicker basket of logs by the door. You nod, keeping your eyes downcast as you were instructed. The first rule of the gilded cage: be invisible until you are needed. You move toward the basket, your worn leather shoes making soft, scuffing sounds on the stone flags. The wood is heavy, the bark rough against your palms. As you carry a load of logs to the hearth, you begin your real work. This is your cover, your license to move, to observe. Your eyes, while seeming to focus on your task, are scanning. Not the faces of the patrons, the boisterous city guards, the quiet scholars, the furtive-looking men in dark cloaks, but the room itself. The great dark beams overhead, thick with the soot of ages. The tapestries on the walls, their vibrant colors long since faded to muted greens and grays, depicting hunting scenes where the prey always looks resigned.
The mantelpiece above the roaring fire, a single, massive piece of dark oak carved with snarling gargoyles. Where would a man like your father, a man of words and secrets, hide a book? You place the logs carefully onto the fire, one by one. The flames leap up to greet them, spitting and hissing, casting dancing shadows that make the gargoyles on the mantel seem to writhe and grimace. The heat is intense on your face now, drying your skin. You can feel the sweat prickle at your hairline. You back away, turning to fetch another load, and your gaze sweeps the room again. You look for anything out of place. A loose floorboard, a stone in the wall that doesn't quite match the others, a space behind a tapestry that seems just a little too deep. The house is a puzzle, and you feel a cold knot of despair tighten in your gut. It is impossibly large, filled with countless hiding places. As you move through the crowded common room, you carry an empty tray, a prop to make you look busy. You collect empty tankards from tables sticky with rings of dried ale. The noise is a constant rolling wave, the clatter of wooden cups, the low murmur of dozens of conversations, blending into a meaningless hum punctuated by sudden bursts of laughter or an angry shout. You breathe through your mouth to avoid the thickest of the smells. You learn to navigate the space without bumping into anyone, to slide between chairs, to anticipate the lurch of a man who has had too much to drink. You are becoming a ghost, just as you were told. Hours seem to melt together, marked only by the slow burning down of the candles and the ever-growing pile of dirty mugs in the scullery. Your feet ache, the muscles in your back burn from carrying heavy trays and logs. But your mind is sharp, honed by a fear that feels like a shard of ice pressed against your heart. You study the patterns of the house. You see how Beatrice watches everyone, her eyes missing nothing, her keys jangling at her waist like a threat. You see how the other girls move, some with a practiced, weary grace, others with a brittle energy that speaks of terror held barely in check. You see the silent codes that pass between them, a quick glance, a subtle shake of the head, a hand placed briefly on an arm. It is a world with its own language, its own laws, and you are an illiterate foreigner. Your search of the common room yields nothing. Every beam is solid, every stone is set firm. The tapestries hide only cold, damp walls. You begin to feel the first creeping tendrils of panic. The night is slipping away. You can hear the watchman's bell from the street tolling the hours toward your doom. Perhaps your father's clue was metaphorical. Where the weeping tree offers its shade. What could it mean? There are no trees in this suffocating hall.
You are sent to the kitchens to fetch a fresh pot of mulled wine. The heat in here is a wet, suffocating blanket. The air is thick with the smell of boiling cabbage, grease, and herbs. A large, red-faced woman, the cook, glares at you as you enter her domain. She gestures to a heavy iron cauldron simmering over a fire. "Don't spill a drop, it's worth more than you are." As you carefully ladle the steaming, fragrant liquid into a ceramic pitcher, your eyes scan this room too. Sacks of flour and potatoes are stacked against one wall. Bunches of dried herbs hang from the rafters, bristle and gray. Copper pots and pans gleam in the firelight. It is a room of purpose, with no room for sentiment or secrets. Disappointment settles in your stomach, as heavy and indigestible as the cook's infamous stew. You carry the wine back to the common room, your arms straining under the weight. You refill the cups of a table of soldiers who are gambling with greasy, well-worn cards. They ignore you completely, their focus entirely on the game. As you turn to leave their table, one of the soldiers curses and slams his fist down in frustration. The table jolts, and a half-full tankard teeters on the edge. You reach out instinctively to catch it, your fingers brushing against the rough, unfinished underside of the heavy oak table. And that's when you feel it. It's a small thing, almost nothing. A series of ridges carved into the wood, so worn down by time and spills that they are nearly smooth. You pause, pretending to wipe a spill with the edge of your apron. In the dim, flickering light, it's hard to see.
You lean closer, your heart beginning a slow, heavy drumbeat against your ribs. You trace the shape with your fingertip. It is not a random scratch. It is a pattern, delicate and deliberate. A long, slender trunk, and from it a cascade of drooping branches, so finely carved they feel like little more than scratches. It is, unmistakably, a weeping willow tree. Your breath catches in your throat. This is it, the first sign, a signpost left by your father. But what does it mean? He didn't hide the book under a table. That would be too simple, too easy to find. This carving is a message. You straighten up, your mind racing, trying to appear calm, to keep your expression neutral. You glance around the room. The table is occupied by loud, drunken soldiers. But who sat here before them? Who sits here most often? The clue isn't the table itself. The clue is the person the table belongs to. Your gaze sweeps across the room and settles on a stooped figure in a shadowed corner. A man you've noticed before, but never paid any mind. He's an old man, thin and frail, wrapped in a threadbare cloak. The other girls call him Old Man Hemlock because of the dry, rattling cough that sometimes shakes his entire body. He is always here, always in the same corner, nursing a single cup of watered-down wine for the entire night. And he is always, you realize with a jolt that runs through you like lightning, sitting at that very table when it is empty. He must have been moved to the corner when the soldiers arrived. The tree isn't a place, it's a person. The shade of the weeping tree is the old man's shadow. A new kind of energy floods your veins, washing away the fatigue. It is a dangerous cocktail of hope and fear. You have a path forward, but it is a path that requires you to break the first and most important rule of the Gilded Cage. You must make yourself noticed. You must speak to someone. You wait, your patience stretched thin as a wire. You perform your duties, your body on autopilot, while your mind rehearses what you will say, what you will ask. Finally, the soldiers, having lost all their coin, get up to leave, their heavy boots clumping on the stone floor. Beatrice directs you with a flick of her wrist to clear their table. Your heart pounds. This is your chance. You clear the empty tankards and wipe down the sticky surface. Your movements deliberately slow. Old Man Hemlock watches you with eyes that are cloudy with age, but seem to miss nothing. He doesn't move from his corner. You take a deep breath, gather the last of the mugs onto your tray, and walk toward him. You approach his small, rickety table. He looks up at you, his expression unreadable. "A refill, sir?" You ask, your voice barely a whisper. It sounds strange in your own ears, rusty from disuse. He gives a small, dry chuckle that turns into a hacking cough. He covers his mouth with a thin, wrinkled hand. When the fit passes, he looks at you again. "They have you working hard, little bird. New to the cage, aren't you?" You nod, your throat suddenly tight. "Yes, sir." "You have your father's eyes," he says so quietly you almost don't hear him. "He was a fool, but he had kind eyes." The words hit you with the force of a physical blow. He knew your father.
Of course he did. Your father, a man who loved to talk, to tell stories, would have been drawn to this quiet observer in the corner. You take a chance, a wild, desperate gamble. You lean closer, pretending to wipe a non-existent spot on his table. "He told me to look for a weeping tree," you whisper, the words feeling heavy and dangerous on your tongue. The old man's eyes widen, just for a second, and a flicker of something. Fear, recognition, dances in their depths. He glances nervously toward the bar, where Madame Sylvie is now in quiet conversation with a city guard. He shakes his head slightly, a warning, but then he leans forward, his breath smelling of sour wine and something medicinal. "Not here," he mutters. "The walls have ears. Your father, he was clever. He knew that some things are best washed away." He coughs again, a dry, deliberate sound. He spent many of his last hours talking of the laundry, of the great lye vat, where stains are removed and everything is made clean again. The laundry room. The words hang in the air between you. He has given you the next step. Hope, fierce and bright, blossoms in your chest. But then he adds another more chilling warning. His eyes fix on yours, and they are suddenly sharp and clear. Be careful of Beatrice. She guards that room like a dragon guards its gold. She sees everything that goes in and everything that comes out, especially the things that are meant to be lost. You step back from the table, giving him a small, grateful nod. You have a destination, but you also have a gatekeeper, a dragon. As you turn away, you feel Madame Sylvie's eyes on your back. You keep your head down, your expression blank, but inside your world has tilted on its axis. You are no longer just a debtor. You are a treasure hunter, an archaeologist of your father's secrets, digging through the layers of this house. And you are beginning to realize that the treasure you seek may be buried far deeper and be far more dangerous than you ever imagined. Your first task is to find a reason, a legitimate excuse to enter the laundry room. It is located at the back of the house, past the kitchens and a part of the establishment you have not yet seen. It is the domain of the housekeepers and laundresses, a place where patrons and serving girls are not meant to go. To be seen there without purpose would be to invite suspicion, and Beatrice's suspicion, you sense, is a dangerous thing to attract. You spend the next hour in a state of heightened awareness, watching Beatrice as she moves through the house. She is a whirlwind of grim efficiency, directing the other servants with sharp words and sharper looks. She seems to be everywhere at once, her presence a constant low-level threat. You notice that she keeps the keys to the linen closets and storerooms on a heavy iron ring hooked to her belt. They are the keys to the kingdom, and she is their unsmiling warden. An opportunity presents itself in the form of a clumsy merchant who, in a grand and drunken gesture, swings his arm wide and knocks an entire pitcher of dark red wine onto the floor. It pools on the flagstones, a sticky, spreading stain. Beatrice lets out a hiss of pure frustration. "You!" she barks, her finger jabbing in your direction. "Get a mop and rags. Clean that up before it sets." This is your chance, but it is a flawed one. She expects you to go to the scullery, where a few cleaning rags are kept in a bucket. She does not expect you to go to the main laundry. You must be clever. You hurry to the scullery, your mind working furiously. The rags in the bucket are gray and thin, barely suitable for the task. You clutch offerings to Beatrice and Isaac.
You grab the mop. Then, feigning frustration, you look at the pathetic rags. You turn to one of the other serving girls, a young woman named Elspeth, with tired eyes and a perpetually worried expression. "These are useless," you say, letting a note of desperation creep into your voice. "Beatrice will have my hide if I just smear this stain around. Where are the good cloths kept?" Elspeth glances over her shoulder nervously. "In the laundry," she whispers. "But you're not supposed to. She told me to clean it properly," you insist, putting a little steel in your tone. "I'm not getting blamed for this." You hope you sound convincing, like a new girl terrified of making a bad impression. It seems to work. Elspeth hesitates, then gives a short, sharp nod. Down the hall past the kitchen, the last door on the left, but be quick. Beatrice doesn't like anyone in her laundry. You thank her with a quick nod and head down the dark, narrow corridor. The sounds of the common room fade behind you, replaced by the rhythmic thumping of the cook chopping vegetables and the sizzle of fat hitting a fire. The air grows warmer, more humid. The corridor is lit by a single sputtering torch that casts long, wavering shadows. It feels like you are descending into the belly of the beast. You find the door, a heavy plank of dark wood, shut tight. You pause, your hand on the iron latch, and listen. From within you can hear a low, rhythmic bubbling sound and the scrape of wood against metal. Someone is in there. Your heart sinks. But then you hear Beatrice's voice, raised and angry, shouting at someone back in the common room. She is still occupied. It has to be now. Taking a deep breath, you lift the latch and push the door open just enough to slip inside, pulling it quietly shut behind you. The heat hits you like a physical blow. The room is filled with steam, so thick it's like walking into a cloud. It smells powerfully of lye, a clean, caustic scent that burns your nostrils, mixed with the smell of wet fabric and hot metal. In the center of the room, a colossal copper vat, as large as a bathtub, bubbles over a low fire. This must be what Hemlock was talking about, the great lye vat, where everything is washed clean. The water is murky, and the steam rising from it obscures the corners of the room in a hazy fog. A young woman, not much older than you, is standing on a small stool, using a long wooden paddle to stir a vat of boiling linens. She doesn't seem to have noticed you. Her face is flushed from the heat, and her hair is damp with sweat. This is your immediate problem. You cannot search with her here. You clear your throat softly. The girl jumps, startled, and turns to face you, her eyes wide. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice wary. "Beatrice sent me," you lie, holding up the useless gray rag from the scullery. "There's a wine spill. I need a proper cloth." The girl eyes you with suspicion, but seems to accept the explanation. She points with her paddle to a tall stack of shelves against the far wall. "There, in the basket on the middle shelf. Take one and go." She turns back to her work, her message clear: you are not welcome here. You move toward the shelves, your eyes darting around, trying to take in every detail of the room through the shifting steam. Barrels of harsh gray soap are stacked in one corner. Lines are strung from the ceiling, hung with damp sheets that look like pale, shrouded ghosts in the gloom. The floor is wet and slippery. You quickly grab a thick, clean cloth from the basket, but you linger for a moment, pretending to look for something else. Your gaze falls back to the great copper vat.
It is too hot to touch, the contents boiling. It would be impossible to search now, even if you could stomach reaching into that murky water. Disappointment begins to prick at you again. Was Hemlock wrong? Then your eyes are drawn to the shelves again. High up on the very top shelf, almost touching the damp ceiling and half hidden behind a large sack of soap powder, sits a small, dark object. It's a wooden box. It looks old, forgotten, covered in a fine layer of dust and grime. It seems utterly out of place amongst the practical supplies of the laundry. Your heart gives a painful lurch. As you stand there, staring up at it, a detail emerges from the gloom. A small carving on the lid, faint but discernible. It's not a weeping willow this time. It's a single, perfectly formed teardrop. This has to be it, but it is impossibly high. You could never reach it without climbing, and climbing would make a noise that would surely alert the girl and bring the wrath of Beatrice down upon you. You are so close, yet it is utterly out of reach. You clutch the clean rag in your hand, your knuckles white. You have found the next clue, another piece of your father's puzzle. But it has only led you to another locked door, another inaccessible height. You force yourself to turn away, to walk back toward the entrance, the clean rag a pathetic prize from your dangerous excursion. The laundry girl doesn't look up as you leave. You slip back out into the corridor, your mind reeling. You have the location of the box. Now you must devise a way to get back into that suffocating, steam-filled room alone and retrieve it from its hiding place. As you walk back toward the noise and false cheer of the common room, you feel as though you are moving through a dream. The world of the gilded cage is slowly revealing its secrets to you, one tantalizing, perilous layer at a time. And you know, with a certainty that chills you to the bone, that the deeper you go, the harder it will be to ever find your way out. The challenge now is not one of discovery, but of engineering. You know where the box is. The problem is the fortress that surrounds it, the constantly working laundry girl, the ever-watchful Beatrice, and the very design of the room, which offers no cover for a thief. You need a distraction, something significant enough to draw everyone away from the back of the house, even for just a few precious minutes. You return to the common room, the clean rag in your hand, a flimsy excuse for your long absence. Beatrice eyes you as you approach the wine stain, her lips a thin, disapproving line. "Took you long enough," she snaps. "Were you spinning the thread yourself?" You murmur an apology and get to work, scrubbing at the dark stain on the stone. As you work, your mind is a whirlwind of desperate plans. A fire? Too dangerous, too uncontrollable. A fight? You are not a brawler, and the result would be a beating and dismissal, or worse. It must be something that creates chaos, but can be plausibly explained as an accident. Something that requires Beatrice's specific managerial attention. Your eyes drift toward the kitchens. The cook is a notoriously foul-tempered woman who guards her territory as jealously as Beatrice guards her laundry. A conflict between those two? That would be a storm indeed. An idea, wicked and dangerous, begins to form. In the scullery, next to the buckets of dirty water, sits a small stone jar. It contains salt, coarse and gray, used for curing meats. It also sits next to a similar-looking jar containing sugar, a rare and expensive commodity used only for the most important guests or for Madame Sylvie's personal tea. To confuse the two would be a costly, infuriating mistake. You must wait for the perfect moment. You continue your duties, a model of quiet obedience. You serve wine, you clear plates, you add wood to the fire, all the while watching the kitchen door. The cook sends a younger boy out to fetch supplies from the larder from time to time. You need to intercept him. An hour later, your chance comes. The boy, A skinny lad named Pip, with a perpetually runny nose, scurries out of the kitchen and down the corridor toward the larder. You follow him, your footsteps silent. As he fumbles with the heavy iron key to the larder door, you come up behind him.
"The cook needs sugar," you say, your voice a low, urgent whisper. "Madame Sylvie is asking for her spiced tea." Pip looks at you, his eyes wide with confusion. "She didn't tell me." "She told me to tell you," you lie, forcing a note of impatience into your voice. "She has her hands in the dough. Do you want to keep her waiting?" The fear of the cook is a powerful motivator. Pip nods frantically, abandons his task at the larder door, and scurries toward the scullery. You watch him go, your heart hammering against your ribs. You see him hesitate for a moment between the two stone jars, then grab the one you hoped he would, the salt. He disappears back into the kitchen. Now you wait. It does not take long. A few minutes later, a shriek of pure, undiluted rage erupts from the kitchens, followed by a string of curses so foul they could peel paint from the walls. The cook storms out of her domain, her face the color of a boiled beet, a wooden spoon held aloft like a weapon. "Beatrice!" she bellows, her voice echoing through the common room, causing heads to turn. "Beatrice!" Beatrice, who had been overseeing the mending of a tapestry in the corner, straightens up, her face a mask of thunder. "What is the meaning of this, Martha? You are disturbing the guests." "The meaning?" the cook shrieks, brandishing the spoon. "Your little spy, that sniveling boy Pip, has salted the honey cakes. The entire batch for the Baron's party tomorrow is ruined. Sabotaged." The accusation hangs in the air. A feud between the cook and the housekeeper was common knowledge, a simmering war that occasionally boiled over. This was a direct escalation. Beatrice's eyes narrow. "My boy would do no such thing. He must have been put up to it." Her gaze sweeps the room, and for a terrifying second, it rests on you. You keep your expression perfectly blank, your eyes wide with the same innocent curiosity as everyone else. The argument escalates, a beautiful, chaotic symphony of insults and accusations. Madame Sylvie, from her perch, watches with an air of detached amusement, content to let her lieutenants battle it out. This is your moment. The attention of the entire house is focused on the two furious women. You slip away from the common room, your movements swift and silent. You hurry down the now empty corridor, your heart pounding a frantic rhythm. You reach the laundry room door and push it open. It is empty. The laundry girl, no doubt drawn by the commotion, is gone. The room is still thick with steam, the great vat still bubbling softly. You don't waste a second. You drag a heavy wooden crate from a corner and position it beneath the high shelf. Your hands are slick with nervous sweat. You clamber onto the crate, its edges digging into your shins. It's still not high enough. You can just barely touch the bottom of the box with your fingertips. You teeter precariously, reaching, stretching every muscle in your body. Your fingers graze the dusty wood. You manage to hook them over the edge and slowly, carefully begin to slide the box toward you. It is lighter than you expected, and smaller. It feels ancient, the wood dry and fragile. You pull it off the shelf and cradle it against your chest, your breath coming in ragged gasps. You jump down from the crate, landing with a soft thud on the damp floor. The box is plain, made of some dark, unidentifiable wood. And there, on the lid, is the teardrop, crudely but clearly carved. It is not a treasure chest. It is a secret keeper.
You shake it gently. Nothing rattles. With trembling fingers you examine it, looking for a latch or a seam. And then you see it. A tiny rusted iron lock, no bigger than your thumbnail, holds its secrets tight. Despair washes over you, cold and immediate. You have come so far, risked so much, only to be thwarted by a tiny piece of rusted metal. You have no key. You have no tools.
You try to pry it open with your fingernails, but the wood is too old, the lock too firm. You are defeated. You stand there in the steam-filled room, the useless box in your hands, listening to the muffled sounds of the continuing argument from the common room. The distraction won't last forever. You need to hide the box and get back before you are missed. But where? Taking it with you is too risky. Leaving it here feels like a surrender. Your eyes scan the room again, this time looking for a new kind of hiding place. Not high up, but low down, hidden in plain sight. Your gaze settles on the barrels of soap in the corner. They are filled with a coarse, lye-heavy powder. No one would have a reason to empty one to the bottom for weeks, perhaps months. Working quickly, you pry the lid off the fullest barrel. The caustic smell of the soap powder fills your sinuses. You scoop out armfuls of the gritty gray substance, placing it in an empty bucket. When you have dug down about a foot, you place the small wooden box inside, making sure it is settled in the center. Then you carefully pour the soap powder back on top, leveling the surface so it looks undisturbed. You replace the heavy lid. It is done. The box is safe. For now. You take a moment to compose yourself, wiping the soap dust from your hands and apron. You smooth your hair, take a few deep breaths to slow your racing heart, and slip out of the laundry room, making sure the door is securely closed behind you. You return to the common room just as Madame Sylvie, her patience finally exhausted, claps her hands sharply. The sound cracks through the air like a whip. "Enough," she says, her voice quiet, but carrying an authority that silences both the cook and the housekeeper instantly. "Beatrice, you will find out who is responsible. Martha, you will make a new batch of cakes. The cost of the wasted sugar will come from both of your wages until the culprit is found. Now get back to work." The two women shoot each other looks of pure venom, but retreat to their respective domains. The brief, glorious chaos is over. As the room settles back into its usual hum, you feel a strange sense of victory. You didn't get the box open, but you have it. It is yours to reclaim. You have passed another of your father's tests. But as you catch a glimpse of Beatrice's face, her eyes narrowed in a cold, calculating fury, you know that this game has just become infinitely more dangerous. You have made a powerful enemy, and she is now actively hunting for a saboteur. She is hunting for you.
You maintain your facade of innocence, but you feel the net tightening. She watches you more than the others, her suspicion a palpable force. Your hope begins to fade, replaced by a dull, persistent ache of despair. The box is so close, yet so far. Dawn is coming. Not just one dawn, but a succession of them, each one marking another day of your imprisonment. The debt is a living thing, growing heavier with each passing hour. Then you remember someone. A figure as quiet and overlooked as Old Man Hemlock. A man who exists in the background, fixing what is broken. His name is Finn. He is the handyman, a brooding, silent man with calloused hands and eyes that seem to see the fractures in things. He repairs broken chairs, shores up loose floorboards, replaces broken window panes. And he is always, you've noticed, fiddling with a small leather roll of tools. Among them, you have seen thin, wicked-looking pieces of metal. Picks. He is your only chance. But his help will not come for free. Men like Finn, you sense, do not deal in sentiment. They deal in bargains. You must find something to offer him. You begin to observe him, just as you observed Hemlock. You learn his routines. He spends his mornings in the stables, tending to Madame Sylvie's one and only horse, a miserable-looking creature with a bad temper. In the afternoons, he works his way through the house, a silent ghost with a hammer and nails. He rarely speaks to anyone.
You decide to approach him in the stables. It is the one place where you are least likely to be overheard. The air in the stable is thick, with the sweet, earthy smell of hay and manure. It is a strangely comforting scent after the cloying perfumes of the house. Finn is there, as you knew he would be, currying the horse with long, slow strokes. The horse, for its part, looks almost peaceful under his touch. He hears you approach, but doesn't turn around. "What do you want?" he asks, his voice a low rumble. "I need your help," you say, your voice barely a whisper. "I have a box. It's locked." He stops brushing the horse and turns to look at you. His eyes are a startlingly clear shade of blue, and they appraise you with an unnerving stillness. Lots of locked boxes in this house. Most are locked for a reason. "This one belongs to me," you say, meeting his gaze. "It was left for me by my father." A flicker of something, interest, pity, crosses his face. He turns back to the horse. "Opening locks is a dangerous business. It invites questions." "No one will know. No one even knows the box exists. I can't pay you with coin. I have none. But I can find things out." This gets his attention. He turns to you again, leaning against the horse's flank. "Find things out? What does a serving girl know?" You take a breath. This is the moment to offer your bargain. "I hear things. The other girls talk."
The patrons talk when they're drunk. Everyone ignores the girl with the tray. What do you want to know? He is silent for a long time, studying your face. You can hear the horse shifting its weight in the straw, the distant sounds of the city outside the stable walls. Finally, he speaks. "Someone has been stealing my tools, small things, a good chisel, a file, my best awl. They disappear from my bag when I'm working. I think it's one of the other servants. Find out who it is, bring me proof, and I'll open your box." You nod. "Agreed." "Don't get caught," he warns, his voice flat. "Beatrice doesn't like thieves, and she doesn't make exceptions." He turns back to his work, the conversation clearly over. You have your bargain. You have formed a fragile, unspoken alliance. Now you must become a detective as well as a treasure hunter. You must hunt the thief in a house full of secrets. Your investigation begins immediately. You know who the likely suspects are, the small handful of permanent staff who have access to the whole house. Pip, the kitchen boy, the two other serving girls, Elspeth and Maeve, the stable hand who works opposite Finn. You watch them all, looking for a sign, a furtive movement, a new possession that they could not afford. Your attention quickly falls on Maeve. She is prettier than the other girls, with a quick, nervous energy and eyes that are always darting around, as if looking for an escape route. You've also noticed that she seems to have a small but steady supply of trinkets, a new ribbon for her hair, a small piece of candied fruit she keeps tucked in her pocket. Things that cost a coin or two, coins that a serving girl should not have. You reason that she is not selling the tools. What use would a merchant have for a single used chisel? She must be trading them. But for what, and with whom? You begin to follow her, as subtly as you can. You notice that she often finds excuses to go to the east wing of the house, where the more expensive rooms are located. One afternoon, you see her slip into a room that you know is occupied by a visiting nobleman, a man known for his cruelty and his lavish spending, Lord Valerius. The same man, you recall, with a cold dread that Madame Sylvie sometimes uses as a threat to keep the other girls in line. A man who pays well for exclusivity. You wait in the corridor, your heart in your throat. A few minutes later, Maeve slips out again. She does not see you hiding in the shadows of a recessed doorway. In her hand, she is clutching a small silver locket. The pieces click into place with sickening clarity. Maeve is not just stealing tools. She is buying favor with a powerful and dangerous man. But why would he want the handyman's tools? It makes no sense.
The answer comes to you a few days later. You overhear a conversation between two city guards in the common room. They're talking about a recent high-profile robberies in the wealthy quarter of the city. The thief is apparently a ghost, able to bypass complex locks and enter secure rooms without leaving a trace. They say he uses specialized tools. One guard says to the other, "Picks and files, the work of a master." Lord Valerius is not buying tools from Maeve. He is supplying them to a master thief and using Maeve, a desperate and invisible servant girl, as his go-between to get them out of the house and onto the streets.
Finn's tools aren't being sold. They are being copied, duplicated by an expert for criminal purposes. This is far more dangerous than you ever imagined. This isn't about petty theft. It's about a conspiracy that involves a powerful nobleman. To expose Maeve would be to risk the wrath of her patron. But you have a bargain to keep. You need proof, tangible proof to take to Finn. You wait until night, until the house is quiet and most of the staff are asleep in their cramped attic quarters. You know where Maeve sleeps, on a thin pallet in the corner of the room she shares with you and Elspeth. You move with the silence you have learned over the past weeks. The floorboards creak under your feet, and you freeze with every sound. You reach your pallet. She is asleep, breathing softly. Tucked under the thin straw mattress is a small cloth bundle. Your fingers tremble as you carefully work it free. You take it to the single, grimy window, where the moonlight offers a pale, ghostly illumination. You unroll the cloth. Inside are two items. One is Finn's missing chisel, its edge still sharp. The other is a small, elegantly written note, folded and sealed with a blob of dark blue wax. You look closer at the seal. It is the crest of Lord Valerius, a snarling wolf's head. This is it, the proof. But as you stand there, the chisel in one hand and the note in the other, a chilling realization washes over you. The stakes have just been raised impossibly high. This isn't just about your father's debt anymore. You have stumbled into a web of crime and power that could get you killed. You came here to find a book. Now you hold the evidence of a conspiracy that reaches far beyond the walls of the gilded cage. And you must trust it all to a silent handyman you barely know. The next morning, you find Finn in the stables, as usual. The air is cold, and your breath forms a small white cloud in front of your face. You don't speak. You simply hold out the cloth bundle. He takes it from you and unrolls it in the pale morning light. He looks at the chisel first, his thumb running over the familiar maker's mark on the handle. Then he looks at the note with its noble seal. His expression doesn't change, but you see a muscle tighten in his jaw. For a long time he just stands there, staring at the proof in his hand. "She's not the one you should be afraid of," you say softly. "It's him. Valerius." Finn nods slowly. He carefully rewraps the chisel and the note and tucks the bundle inside his tunic. "You kept your end of the bargain," he says, his voice low. "Now I'll keep mine. Bring me the box, tonight, after the last patrons have gone. Meet me in the workshop." His workshop is a small, cluttered room at the very back of the stables, filled with the smell of sawdust and linseed oil. It is his sanctuary, the one place that is truly his. To be invited there is a sign of trust you have not earned, but have been granted. That night, after the common room has finally emptied and the house has settled into a restless quiet, you retrieve the box from its hiding place in the soap barrel. Your hands are covered in the gritty powder, and the caustic smell clings to your clothes. You carry it concealed in the folds of your apron, your heart a frantic drum against your ribs. Every shadow seems to hold a threat. Every creak of a floorboard sounds like an alarm. You make it to the stables undetected.
A single lantern burns in the workshop, casting a warm, golden glow.
Finn is there, sitting on a low stool waiting for you. The small leather roll of his most precious tools is spread out on the workbench beside him. You place the dusty wooden box on the bench between you. He looks at it for a moment, then picks it up, his large calloused hands surprisingly gentle. He examines the tiny rusted lock, turning the box over and over. "My father made this box," he says quietly, his words so unexpected they startle you. "He was a cabinet maker. He taught me the craft." He runs a finger over the carved teardrop. He used to say that every box holds a story, a joy or a sorrow. He selects a thin, delicate-looking pick from his kit and a small tension wrench. You watch, breathless, as he inserts them into the tiny keyhole. His movements are precise, economical, his focus absolute. It is like watching a surgeon at work. The only sounds are the soft whisper of metal on metal and your own shallow breathing. Minutes stretch into an eternity. You can feel a cramp forming in your shoulders from the tension. He works with a deep, quiet patience, his brow furrowed in concentration. Then you hear it. A tiny sound, barely audible. A soft click. Finn withdraws his tools. He looks at you, a question in his clear blue eyes. He holds the box out to you. It is your story to open. Your hands are trembling so badly you can barely take it from him. You place it on the workbench, and slowly, with a sense of reverence and dread, you lift the lid. It is empty. For a heartbeat you feel nothing but a vast, hollow emptiness that mirrors the box itself. All of it, the risk, the fear, the dangerous bargains, all for nothing. Tears of frustration and despair well in your eyes. But then, as the lantern light pools inside the open box, you see that it is not entirely empty. Lying at the bottom is a single, pressed leaf. It is dry and brittle, its edges curled with age, but you recognize the distinctive, delicate shape. It is a willow leaf. And beneath it, etched into the dark wood at the bottom of the box, are a series of numbers. Not a code, not a map. A date. A date from almost exactly a year ago. The date you remember from the gossip you've overheard in the common room of the night the previous Madame Sylvie's predecessor, died. They said it was an accident, a fall. You stare at the date, a cold dread creeping up your spine. This is not the end of the search. It is a new and far more terrifying beginning. The box did not contain a treasure. It contained a question. A question that links your father, a dead woman, and a single, terrible night. The date etched into the wood feels like a brand on your mind. It means nothing to you on its own, a random collection of numbers. But in this house, a year is not a long time. Memories linger like the damp in the stone walls. Someone must know the significance of that night. You look up at Finn. He is watching you, his expression unreadable in the flickering lantern light. "Does this date mean anything to you?" you ask, your voice hoarse. He leans over, his gaze falling on the numbers. He is silent for a moment, his brow furrowed. "That was the night of the great storm," he says slowly.
"The wind took half the tiles off the roof. It was the same night old Madame Helene died." He looks from the date to your face, his clear eyes searching yours. "They said she fell from the widow's walk, up on the roof, slipped on the wet tiles.
But there were whispers. Whispers. You prompt, your heart beginning to beat faster. Some said she didn't fall, Finn says, his voice dropping even lower. Some said she was pushed. Madame Sylvie took over the house the very next day, all very neat and tidy. Too tidy for some. He straightens up, a grim set to his jaw. Your father was Madame Helene's scribe. He kept her accounts, wrote her letters. He was loyal to her. After she died, Sylvie kept him on, but it was different. He was always watching, always listening. He looked like a man haunted. A scribe, not just a gambler. He was a man of letters, a keeper of secrets for the woman who ran this house. And he disappeared shortly after her death. The pieces are beginning to form a picture, and it is a dark and terrifying one. Thank you, Finn, you say, closing the lid of the empty box. The willow leaf inside crumbles slightly at the movement. You've done more than you promised. I don't like unfinished stories, he says, rolling his tools back into their leather pouch with practice efficiency. Be careful. Digging up the past can get you buried in it. You know who you must talk to next. There is only one person in this house who has been here long enough and is willing to speak of the past. Old Man Hemlock. The next evening, you approach him as you did before. The common room is its usual chaotic self, a tapestry of noise and smoke. You bring him a cup of wine, this time with a small heel of bread you managed to save from your own meager dinner. He accepts it with a grateful nod, his thin fingers closing around the cup. You lean in close, once again under the guise of cleaning his table. The box was empty, but there was a date inside. The night Madame Helene died. Hemlock freezes, the cup halfway to his lips. His cloudy eyes clear with a sudden sharp fear. He sets the cup down, his hand trembling so much that the wine sloshes over the rim. He glances around the room, his gaze darting from shadow to shadow. You are playing with fire, girl, he rasps, his voice barely audible. That was no storm, that was a reaping. He tells you what he saw, in short, fragmented sentences. He was here that night, in his usual corner. He saw Madame Helene arguing with Lord Valerius, the same nobleman whose crest you found on the note. Their voices were raised. She was angry, threatening him with something. Later, he saw your father, looking pale and frightened, carrying a heavy ledger into Madame Helene's office. Later still, after the storm had broken, came the screams from the courtyard and the discovery of the body. Giselle, he uses, the name no one else dares to use. She was the old madame's protégée, but she was ambitious, and she was close with Valerius. Very close.
The day after, she was in charge, and the ledger your father carried was gone, vanished. Everyone was told it was lost in the chaos. A ledger, a book of accounts, your father's book of truths. It wasn't poetry, it was a record of the secrets of this house. And it disappeared the night a woman was murdered. This is the legacy he left for you. Not a treasure to buy your freedom, but a weapon. A truth so powerful it was worth killing for. As you are absorbing the weight of this revelation, a new presence makes itself known beside your table. A shadow detaches from the wall, and you find yourself looking at the black robes and deceptively mild face of a visiting friar, Brother Thomas. He is a regular presence in the house, a man who claims to be saving the souls of the fallen, but who always seems more interested in gossip than in scripture. His smile is thin and reptilian. "Forgive me for interrupting," he says, his voice a low, smooth hiss that makes the hairs on your arms stand up.
but I could not help but overhear you mention a date, a rather significant date. You and Hemlock both fall silent. The old man seems to shrink in his chair, pulling his cloak around him as if for protection. Brother Thomas's eyes, small and black like beads of jet, fix on you. That date belongs to a secret ledger, a record of sins, shall we say, a very valuable book, and I believe your father, the scribe, helped to write it. He was a meticulous man. The friar takes a step closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Tell me where it is. A righteous man such as myself could make good use of such a document. Perhaps I could even persuade Madame Sylvie to forgive your father's debt in exchange for your cooperation. The blood drains from your face. Ice floods your veins. He is not a friar, or if he is one who serves a much darker master. He is here for the ledger. He has been hunting for it all this time, just as you have, but for entirely different reasons. He thinks it's a tool for blackmail, a weapon to wield for his own gain. You are no longer just a searcher, you are a rival, and he is a far more dangerous player than you are. You stammer something, a denial, shaking your head. I don't know what you're talking about. Brother Thomas's smile does not waver. Oh, I think you do, he says softly. You have your father's eyes, and they are full of secrets. He straightens up. Think on my offer, but do not think for too long. I am not a patient man. He gives you a small, mocking bow and melts back into the shadows of the common room. You look at Hemlock. His face is pale, his eyes wide with terror. You must go, he whispers, his voice trembling. Get out of this house. He is not who he seems. He is the nobleman's confessor, his spy. The web is wider and more tangled than you knew. The friar is Valerius's man, sent here to find the one piece of evidence that could incriminate him in the Madame Helene's murder.
And you have just led him right to it. Panic, cold and sharp, seizes you. You have to run. But where can you go? The debt still holds you. Leaving means becoming a fugitive, hunted by both Sylvie and this false friar. Your only hope is to find the ledger before he does. Hemlock's words give you your next clue. Your father was clever. He knew that some things are best washed away. He wasn't talking about the laundry. He was talking about a different kind of cleansing. A cleansing of sins. He was talking about the chapel. The Gilded Cage has a small, disused chapel at the top of the house. It's little more than a dusty room with a few broken pews and a stone altar, used now for storage. No one ever goes up there. It is the perfect hiding place. You must get there, now, before Brother Thomas realizes what you know. You make your excuses to Hemlock and move away, trying to look as casual as possible. You can feel the friar's eyes on you, a physical pressure on your back. You don't dare look in his direction. You pick up your tray and head toward the servants' staircase at the back of the house, the one that leads to the attic dormitories. The chapel is on the way. Your feet are silent on the narrow, winding stone steps. The air grows colder, thinner as you climb. The sounds of the common room fade away, replaced by the sighing of the wind through the eaves of the old house. The staircase is dark, lit only by thin slivers of moonlight from the occasional arrow-slit window. You reach the third-floor landing and pause, your heart pounding. The door to the chapel is just ahead, a small arched doorway half hidden in the shadows. You're about to step toward it when you hear a sound from the stairs below you. A soft, measured footstep. He followed you.
Sheer animal terror takes over. You don't think, you run. You scramble up the last flight of stairs toward the attic, your breath catching in your throat in ragged sobs. You burst into the long, low-ceilinged room where the servants sleep. It is empty. A sea of straw pallets and thin gray blankets. There is nowhere to hide. At the far end of the room is a single small door. You know where it leads. To the widow's walk. The narrow stone walkway that runs along the edge of the roof. The place where Madame Hélène fell to her death. You hear his footsteps on the stairs behind you, closer now, unhurried. He knows he has you trapped. You have no choice. You run to the small door and wrench it open. A blast of cold, wet wind hits you, snatching the breath from your lungs. The sky above is a roiling mass of dark clouds, the moon hidden. Rain is beginning to fall, slicking the stone tiles under your feet. You step out onto the walkway. It is barely wide enough for one person. There is no rail, only a low parapet on one side. On the other, a sheer drop to the cobblestone courtyard 3 stories below. The wind howls around you, trying to tear you from your footing. You look back. Brother Thomas appears in the doorway, a dark silhouette against the dim light of the attic. He does not hurry.
He begins to walk toward you, his black robes whipping around him in the wind. "There is nowhere left to run, little bird," he calls out, his voice carrying easily over the storm. "Give me the ledger, and I will let you fly away. Refuse, and you will share Madame Helene's fate. Another tragic accident in the storm." You back away from him, your heels scraping against the stone. Your eyes dart around, looking for an escape, for a weapon. There is nothing, only the wind, the rain, and the dizzying drop into darkness. You realize with a sickening certainty that this is it. This is the end of your search. You are standing in the very spot where the story began a year ago. Your father's clues have not led you to salvation. They have led you to your own execution. As Brother Thomas closes in on you, his hand outstretched, a sudden thought, a memory flashes through your mind. Where the weeping tree offers its shade. Hemlock's table, the carving, then the box with its carved teardrop, and the willow leaf inside. Willow, weeping, and tears. And another phrase, something Hemlock said. Some things are best washed away. He had repeated it. The laundry, the livat. It clicks. A final stunning revelation. The clues were not a sequence. They were a sentence. They were a riddle. Where the lady weeps silver tears, your freedom lies. That was your father's original message. You had focused on the silver, on the brooch you thought he meant. But you were wrong. It wasn't about silver. It was about tears. The teardrop on the box, and the willow leaf. Where do you find lye, the substance used for washing, for making soap? You make it from wood ash, and the best, purest ash comes from burning certain kinds of wood. Willow is one of them. And the lady. Who is the lady of this house? The one who controls everything, who holds the power of life and death over you. The one who profits from sin and sorrow, Madame Sylvie. Where the lady weeps silver tears, it's not a place, it's a person, or rather something a person wears. Every day, without fail, Madame Sylvie wears a single piece of jewelry, a large, ornate silver locket hung on a black ribbon around her neck. A locket shaped like a teardrop. Your breath catches in your throat. The ledger isn't in the chapel. It isn't hidden in some dusty corner. It has been in plain sight all along, kept safe by the most powerful and dangerous person in the house. Your father didn't hide it from her.
He saw it with her. They were partners. This realization changes everything. You are not her enemy. You are her ally. And you have just led her enemy directly to the brink of discovering her secret. Brother Thomas is only a few feet from you now, his face a pale oval in the gloom. He is smiling, a predator's smile. The game is over, he says. You're right, you say, your voice surprisingly steady. The wind whips your hair across your face. The rain is falling harder now, cold and sharp. It is. And with a surge of adrenaline-fueled courage you didn't know you possessed, you turn and run, not away from him, but directly toward the most treacherous part of the walkway, the spot where the tiles are slickest, where the wind is strongest. You are not trying to escape. You are creating a distraction. You are buying time. You stumble, letting out a cry that is half real, half fake, and catch yourself just at the edge of the roof. For a heart-stopping moment, you are looking straight down into the dark, swirling maw of the courtyard below. Brother Thomas hesitates, surprised by your sudden, reckless move. That hesitation is all you need, because you are not the only one on the roof tonight. A figure emerges from the shadows behind the friar, from the other end of the widow's walk, a figure cloaked and silent, moving with a predator's grace. It is Finn, and in his hand he is holding a heavy iron pry-bar. He must have followed you both, the silent handyman, the guardian of the house's secrets. He was not just a lockpick, he was a protector. I don't like people who steal my tools, Finn says, his voice a low growl that cuts through the wind, and I don't like spies in my house. Brother Thomas spins around, his face a mask of shock and fury. He has been outmaneuvered. He is no longer the hunter. He is the prey. The two men face each other on the narrow, rain-slicked walkway, dark silhouettes against the stormy sky. Your desperate search for your father's legacy has led to this, a final brutal confrontation on the edge of the world. The confrontation on the roof is swift and merciless. There are no grand speeches, no theatrical swordplay. There is only the grim reality of two men fighting for their lives on a narrow, treacherous ledge. Finn moves with a surprising speed, his body low and balanced, the pry-bar held like a short staff. Brother Thomas, caught off guard, scrambles to defend himself, but his flowing robes are a hindrance in the wind, and his skills are in whispers and manipulation, not in brawling. Finn does not try to kill him. He is too smart for that. A body in the courtyard would bring the city watch and questions that no one at the Gilded Cage could afford to answer. Instead, he uses the pry-bar with brutal efficiency to disarm and disable. A sharp crack echoes over the howling wind as the iron bar connects with the friar's wrist. Thomas cries out in pain, his dagger clattering onto the stone tiles. Another swift, calculated blow to his knee, and he goes down, howling on the wet stone. "This is my house," Finn says, his voice dangerously quiet, as he stands over the whimpering friar. "You are not welcome here anymore." He hauls the injured man to his feet. "You will leave this city tonight. If I ever see your face again, I will finish what I started." He half drags, half carries the groaning friar back toward the attic door, leaving you alone on the widow's walk. The wind and rain seem to lessen, the storm having passed its peak. You are soaked to the skin, shivering with cold and the aftermath of terror, but you are alive, and you are, for the first time, truly free from fear. You know the final answer to the puzzle. You make your way down from the roof, your legs unsteady beneath you.
You find Finn in the stable, calmly tending to the horse as if nothing had happened. The friar is gone. He won't be back.
Finn says without looking at you. Valerius will have to find a new errand boy. He finally turns, his clear blue eyes meeting yours. You were brave up there. I was terrified, you admit. Bravery isn't the absence of fear, he says, a ghost of a smile touching his lips. It's acting in spite of it. Now, I think it's time you had a conversation with the lady of the house. He is right. It is time to stop searching in the shadows and step into the light. It is time to confront Madame Sylvie. You find her in her office, the same small, tidy room where she first sealed your fate. She is sitting behind her desk, a single candle burning, casting long shadows on the wall. She is not looking at the ledgers or counting coin. She is simply sitting, waiting. As you enter, she looks up, and her face is not hard or cold. It is weary. I have been expecting you, she says, her voice quiet. Finn sent word. It seems you had had a rather eventful evening. You walk to the desk and stand before her, no longer a frightened girl, but a player in the game. The ledger, you say, your voice steady. My father's book of truths. It's in your locket. She does not deny it. She does not even seem surprised. With a sigh that seems to carry the weight of years, she reaches up and unclasps the black ribbon from around her neck. She places the silver teardrop locket on the desk between you. Your father was a good man, she says softly. A loyal man, but a terrible gambler. He was loyal to Helene, and when she died, he became loyal to me and to the protection of this house. With a deft flick of her fingernail, she opens the locket. It does not contain a key or a scroll. The inside is hollow, a tiny, empty silver shell. You stare at it confused. But I thought. The locket was a symbol, Sylvie explains, a marker, a reminder of where the true key is kept. She reaches into a small locked drawer in her desk and removes a single ornate iron key. Your father was a poet, remember? He loved riddles. Where the lady weeps silver tears. The locket is the tear. The key was in my possession, the lady. And the silver? That was the coin your father paid Finn to build the hiding place. She rises from her chair and gestures for you to follow her. She leads you not to the chapel, not to the laundry, but back to the main common room. It is empty now, the fires banked low, the air still thick with the ghosts of the evening's revelry. She walks to the great stone hearth, the very place you stood when you first entered this house. She runs her hand along the massive oak mantelpiece, over the snarling carved gargoyles. Your father knew the best place to hide something is in plain sight, she says. She presses one of the gargoyles' eyes. You hear a soft click, and a section of the heavy, ornate woodwork swings inward, revealing a small, dark cavity behind it. And inside, resting on a bed of velvet, is a single, thick, leather-bound book. The book with the silver clasp.
It isn't what you think it is, Sylvie says that she carefully lifts it out. It's not a record of sins for blackmail. Helene was not that kind of woman, and neither am I. She places the heavy book on a table and opens it. The pages are filled with your father's elegant, precise script, but it is not a list of names and their vices. It is a ledger of debts, but not the kind you imagined. It is a meticulous record of every coin, every jewel, every piece of property extorted from the women of this house by the powerful men who used and abused them. It's a record of promises broken, of wages unpaid, of dowry stolen. And the largest, most detailed account belongs to Lord Valerius, documenting the fortune he stole from Madame Helene, his lover, before he murdered her to silence her.
This book is not a weapon, Sylvie says, her voice filled with a quiet, fierce pride. It is a shield. It is our insurance policy. The threat of its release is the only thing that keeps men like Valerius from owning us completely. It is the only real power we have. Your father understood that. He died protecting it. A stunned silence fills the room. Your father wasn't just a debtor. He was a guardian, a protector. He didn't abandon you to a debt. He led you to a legacy far more valuable than silver. He led you to the truth. He hid it the night Helene was murdered, and he left a trail of clues for you, and only you to follow. He didn't know if he could trust me, not at first. He needed to be sure that whoever found this book was clever enough and brave enough to understand its true purpose. It was a test, his final desperate gamble. He was betting on you. Suddenly, a loud, frantic banging echoes from the great front door of the inn, making you both jump. It is too late for a patron, too early for the morning deliveries. Sylvie's face hardens. He knows, she whispers, her eyes locking with yours. Valerius. The friar must have found a way to send him a message. He knows we have the book, and he is coming to claim it. The banging comes again, louder this time, more insistent, the sound of splintering wood. They are breaking the door down. You are out of time. The final confrontation is no longer coming. It is here. What do we do? You ask, your voice trembling again, the brief moment of peace shattered. Madame Sylvie looks from the ledger on the table to your face. She picks up the heavy book and pushes it into your hands. Your father bet on you, she says, her voice a low, urgent command. Now, so do I. Run. Take the back way, through the stables. Finn will have a horse ready. Get this book to the captain of the city watch. His name is Marcus. Tell him it is the evidence from Madame Helene. He was loyal to her. He will listen. Go, now. But as you clutch the ledger to your chest, you look around the common room. You see the faces of this place in your mind's eye. Hemlock, frail and frightened. Finn, silent and strong. Even Beatrice, in her own grim way, a protector of this house's order.
This is not just Sylvie's fight. It has become your fight too. These are your people now. The front door groans, its iron hinges screaming in protest. It is about to give way. This is your moment of choice. You can take the book and run, securing your own freedom, just as you set out to do. You can save yourself. Or you can stay. You can stand with these people, with this strange, broken family you have found, and fight for the freedom of everyone in the gilded cage. You look at Sylvie, at the fear and desperation in her eyes, and you see a reflection of your own. But beneath it, you see something else. A flicker of hope. A hope she has placed in you. You clutch the heavy ledger to your chest, its weight a comfort, a solid, tangible truth in a world of shadows. No, you say, your voice clear and strong, echoing in the sudden silence as the banging stops. We don't run. This is our house. The great oak door bursts inward with a deafening crash. Lord Valerius stands framed in the doorway, flanked by two of his household guards, their swords drawn and gleaming in the faint light from the hearth. His face is a mask of aristocratic fury, his eyes fixing on the book in your hands. That, he snarls, pointing a gloved finger at you, belongs to me. But you are no longer the frightened girl who first walked through that door. You have been tested by fear, sharpened by intrigue, and forged in the fire of this house's secrets. You are your father's daughter. You take a step forward, placing yourself between Valerius and Sylvie. You hold the ledger up. It belongs to the women whose lives you've ruined, you declare, your voice ringing with an authority you didn't know you possessed. And its story is about to be told. The stalemate is broken, not by the clash of steel, but by a sound from behind Valerius. The sound of dozens of footsteps, of clanking armor, and the unmistakable voice of the captain of the city watch. "Lord Valerius," Captain Marcus says, stepping into the doorway, his own sword in his hand, a troop of guards arrayed behind him. "You are under arrest for the murder of Madame Helene." Old man Hemlock, it turned out, was more than just an observer. He was a survivor. After you left him, he slipped out a side door and went for the one man in the city he knew he could trust. The fight is over before it began. Valerius, caught completely by surprise, sputters and protests. But he is surrounded. His guards, seeing the overwhelming odds, wisely drop their weapons. As the city watch takes the disgraced nobleman into custody, a new day is dawning outside. The first rays of sunlight pierce through the grimy windows of the common room, cutting through the shadows and dust motes, casting a golden glow on the scene. You stand there, the heavy book still in your hands. You did not find the silver brooch you were looking for, because it never existed. It was a metaphor, a riddle, a test. Your father didn't want you to find an object. He wanted you to find something far more valuable, a new family, a new purpose, and a strength you never knew you had. The debt is gone, erased, not by coin, but by courage. And as the sun rises on the gilded cage, you are no longer its prisoner. You are its guardian. You have more than lasted the night. You have found your place in it. Now, let your body sink deeper into the comfort of your bed. Let your breathing be slow and even. The search is over. The secrets are safe. You have earned your rest. Sleep now. Sweet dreams.